Good morning, friends, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee. And I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday so far. And I am drinking out of one of my Cichlids and Coffee cups. And coffee tastes better in one of those cups. That's guaranteed, or your money back. Hey, Salient Aquatics in the house. Hello, Salient. Good to see you. And I'm getting an AV is great by Denny Riddell. Thank you for that, Denny. I appreciate that. And Cichlid Kings, AV is great. All right. Thank you so much. Sundar India in the house. Hello, my friend. Price Tag in the house. Cat Sailor. Angelo. We got some great folks in here. Peas and Haps. Warren Venter. Michael Lodanero. Z-Zip. Davey Larson. Very, very cool. Some familiar names. We have a great topic today and some fun stuff going on. Oh, yeah. All righty. So let's see where we're at. Shamu aquariums? Are those very large aquariums? Shamu Aquariums from SoCal. Hello, my friend. Today is water change day. Not looking forward to it. Oh, come on. Hey, Finglofin. Finglofin is here. Hello, my friend. And Robin Rayner is in the house. Paul Newman. Hey, Paul. Good to see you, my friend. And yeah, Paul, you're always first. So I don't know what happened. I was worried about you. Thought maybe you had a flat. Crystal C in the house. Hi, Crystal. So let's let some other folks pile in here, and we will get the show underway. I have some cool stuff for you today. Let me go ahead and flash this banner. Where is it? Excuse me. There it is. All right. So any $10 chat today. I just have this mountain of Sarah food. I've got like 4 of these bags. Each one contains, I don't know, 20 packets, and it's community fish and probiotic and something they call Vipan family. And it's probably 2-3 millimeter pellets. Anyway, good stuff. Sarah's good stuff. We'll give away some Sarah to any super chat over 10. Get some Sarah. And if you want one of these holographic Cichlids and Coffee stickers, a holographic sticker, just let me know in your email when you claim your food, and I'll get you some of that. And then the two biggest super chats, if they're over 20, I'm going to throw in some of these co-op. Got a couple co-op T-shirts, kind of cool. They were giving these away at Aqua Shell at one point, but see them. Turtle and kinds of good stuff on there. Swordtail. We've got that old pufferfish, a Cory cat. Anyway, so I've got a couple of these teas, and I'll send them to you in my limited edition. Limited edition till I order more. Cichlids and Coffee shipping bags. Oh, there you go. There you go. So at any rate, so that'll be for any of the super chats today. Get something special. Just my way of saying thank you for helping the channel. And let's see. Warren Venter just went through a rough few hours as we had a 22-hour power outage. Oh my goodness. Heaters weren't working. It was and it's winter here in South Africa. Oh my goodness. Only lost a single lemon tetra. Wow. That's amazing. Well, it's one of those things where you hope it never happens, but at some point it might. And I have some power backups, some uninterrupted power supplies. One's by Danner, and I forget the other one. I got a small one and a big one, and they can keep things going for about maybe, I don't know, between 5 and 8 hours. But then after that, I mean, for a power outage like you had, I mean, then what do you have to do? I mean, you have to go in there and agitate the surface of the tanks. But I don't know what you can do about the heat. Just hope that they can tolerate it. Some fish, like Buenos Aires tetras, can tolerate low temperatures, but your lemons, I don't think so much. But man, oh man, okay. I just read an article on trying to convert the world to electric vehicles, and one of the points in the article was if there was a power grid problem, because they're talking about even military vehicles being electric. There's a power outage of some kind, or a power grid attack of some kind. You wouldn't be able to recharge vehicles, and so it's so interesting, interesting way to go. Paul, sorry about that. Bicolors, I love bicolors. Sorry to hear that, my friend. And I hope you get another one soon that is equally as colorful. I've been very lucky with my bicolor because he's a runt and he's living in this tank behind me with these monsters. And he somehow manages to get along. He stays low in the aquarium, kind of stays near the rocks and things. But so he's sort of adapted. He's adapted a way to survive. So we have a good topic today. Let's go ahead and do the official start of today's live stream. Big shout out to the channel sponsor, the Cichlid Shack in Tempe, Arizona. James is going through a consolidation of 2 locations. He's consolidating it into 1 location, which is going to be much easier for him to manage, allow him to have a little more family time, a little more quality of life. So I am very, very glad that he's doing it. And as a result, I think we're all going to get just overall a better situation with the Cichlid Shack. 15% off on fish orders over 100. Use Shack Attack 15 and Shack Attack 10 for all dry goods, everything from heaters to controllers to whatever he's got out there. Food, 10% off. Use Shack Attack 10. Discounts don't apply to shipping. And if you do use Southwest, be sure they deliver to your local airport. They don't deliver everywhere. So shout out to Shacks, to the Cichlid Shack. Also, a big shout out to Aquarium Co-op for all the help they've been giving me recently and with special projects I have going on. So we restarted the stream twice just to be sure we're started. So, all right, let's see who else we got here. Dennis Rudell is on with his fiancée, Edith. Hi, Edith. And Edith is, I believe, Spanish speaking. So, Edith, me da mucho gusto en verte aquí. All right, so let's see. Angelo, Mile, Michael Latrania. All right. Hey, cheers to you, Eric. All right. So I want to talk about a topic that comes up a lot, and let me shut down this the scrolling banner here. I think you get the gist of it. And by the way, a special shout out to my Patreon monthly supporters. Information on the Patreon program is in the description under the video and also can be shared by the moderators in the chat. But this is the Garage Gang, and just a very big shout out to them who helped me with the ongoing expenses of running the fish room and also with traveling to faraway shops and fish shows and things of that nature. Their support is very, very important and very, very appreciated. So a big shout out to all of my Patreon supporters. So let's see here. You know, I like to take notes. I have some notes I put together. Lady Diane comes in with a super chat. Now, Lady Diane, I have a couple t-shirts, medium or large. Just tell me in the email that you send to me at ben.o.cichlid, and let me know what kind of fish you have. Maybe I can dial in the food a little better. I'll send you some Sarah. And if you want one of those holographic stickers, let me know. I will send one to you. Here's an example. This was sent to me. A picture that was sent to me by John Webb. This is John Webb's tank, and you can see he is proudly displaying his Cichlids and Coffee sticker right there in the middle of the stand. If you have a channel sticker, send me a picture, and I'll feature your tank on the live stream. But thank you, Lady Diane. Much appreciated. And John Webb, I don't know if you're here, but I hope you catch the replay. Hey, Raisin Fishes from the great state of Texas. You know, I've been to Texas many times. I do love that state. Warren Venter. All right. Hello, Warren. And I'm not sure what that turns into in US dollars, but if it goes over the threshold, let me know, and I can possibly send this to you. Not sure what it would ship. It'll probably cost me $30 to ship things to you. Oh, I'm just a kind of an idiot, I guess. But anyway, let me know, Warren. Send me an email, will you? ben.o.cichlid. Let's talk about your super chat. And thank you so much for that. Very appreciated. All right, so let's talk about a very common question. I'm drinking two kinds of fluid today. None of them are alcoholic. I will admit, last night I had a little bit of a celebration with my wife. We celebrated our 38th anniversary. 38 years together. And I participated in a little bit of Tennessee whiskey, and it was delicious. And I'm not feeling too bad this morning, but I'm going to be fasting until dinner. So just to clear out the system. But all right. So one of the questions that I get, beside the question, how many fish can I get into a 50, 40, 60 gallon tank, right? You get that one pretty often. But besides that question, the other comment that I get very often as an email is I just did a water change and my fish are, and then you can imagine the rest of the sentence, right? They're gasping at the top. They're gasping at the bottom. They're hiding. They're acting strange. Their fins are clamped. They're not swimming right. They're turning over. Their swim bladders seem to be messed up somehow. or they're outright dying. I did a water change, and I lost several fish immediately. And so, first of all, this is a very difficult email to get, because you want to help these folks, and at the same time, without really observing the tank, observing the fish, without really knowing what steps were taken or not taken during their water change, you're just shooting in the dark. You're just let me throw this out there and see if maybe this works, right? By the way, while I'm thinking of it, I am going to do a feeding. I'm going to feed the fish behind me some krill, some frozen krill, towards the end of today's live stream. And I'm going to feed the South Americans, Central Americans, and the 210 to my left. I'm going to feed them a bunch of bloodworms. So stay tuned for that. If you like piranha movies, you'll like what you're going to see. So without seeing the fish, without knowing what the person did or didn't do, all I can do is ask a few questions and then hope that we hit on something that can stop the carnage. We've all had it happen. I mean, I've had it happen. I mean, I remember after coming here to Tennessee from California, I mean, my tanks were not established well enough, and I did a little bit too much at once, and I created a bad situation. I created a bit of a combination of a bacterial bloom, an ammonia nitrite spike, and I lost some really nice fish, including a paratilapia, which was just absolutely beautiful fish. And so let's go ahead and get into my 10 tips. My 10 tips. My 10 tips for problems after a water change. The first one is sort of up for debate. And you tell me in the chat, do you temperature match? Do you temperature match when you do a water change? I've had some people say, no, I just go cold water right from the faucet. Let's do it just like the rain, just drop it in there. I've had other people tell me, no, I get it within a degree. And, but it's, I understand the thinking of it's like the rain. It's like when it rains on a lake or a river. I get that. At the same time, the impact of water of a different temperature is going to be very different when it's hitting 5 million gallons versus when it's hitting 29 gallons or 50 gallons or even 100 gallons of a 60% water change. That's going to be a very different kind of impact. And so the random guy says plus or minus 5 degrees, within 5 degrees. Rocky says match as best as I can. Cichlid Kings, yes, I temperature match. By the way, temperature matching is a lot easier if you have a digital thermometer. I have one by a company called Taylor. You get an instant reading. I mean, I take the cap off, it tells me what the room temperature is immediately, right? I put it in the tank, an immediate reading. I take it, it's very, very immediate. So just a tip, right? But now I temperature match. I temperature match. And some fish are going to be more sensitive than other fish. I mean, certainly if you have something like discus or fish that prefer more of a warmer water situation, you're putting in ice cold water. So for me, it's worked for me. So I don't see a reason to change it, but I know that topic is up for debate. I know some people say, no, I just open the faucet and go. Now, so temperature matching. Didn't match the temperature, shocked the fish somehow with too much of a drastic. I mean, if temperature matching didn't matter, why do we float? Why do we float our fish when we bring them home? Why bother? Why not just drop and flop? And there are some people, I guess, who do that too. They come home and they just empty the bag into a bucket, through a net, and they just flop the fish in the tank. Boom. And they figure that the impact or the adverse effect of being stuck in a bag is worse than a change in temperature. So they sort of make a judgment call on that. So I get it. Angelo, I use a meat thermometer. Now, that would qualify as a digital thermometer. Oh, no, you mean the kind that have the actual dial, because they do have dial meat thermometers. So I get that. That works. They also have these real cool laser ones now, right? That you can point to the top of the water, top of the tank, and they give you a reading. Those are kind of cool, but you're getting into more cost. So what's the other common mistake people do when they do a water change? And this is number two. They fail to condition, or they fail to follow the recommended dosing instructions that are on the conditioner. And I have heard it's very hard to overdose conditioner. It's possible, but it's very difficult. Probably the more common mistake is the person was distracted and forgot to condition altogether. Now, if you combine that with one of the other points I'm going to be bringing up here, if you combine that, you could end up with a very difficult situation if, let's say, that there was a recent water treatment plant procedure that occurred, and they super chlorinated, super ammonia treated the plant, and now you're getting something right after that. You could end up with a very serious situation. Fortunately, here in Nashville, when I test my water out of the tap, I get like 0 nitrates, almost 0 ammonia, and almost like 0 chlorine. I mean, it's like almost undetectable. So once I temperature match, I could technically just go unconditioned, but I don't. I still condition. So forgetting to condition or conditioning incorrectly is point number 2 that could have occurred. And when I ask a person who sent me the email, are you sure you conditioned according to instructions? Or are you sure you conditioned at all? And very often I'll get I think I did, but they might not be totally sure. So now there's also questions I get sometimes like, well, why does the manufacturer say I should condition for the full volume of the tank when I'm filling from the tap? So let's say you have an Aqueon system. And by the way, hey, Whip, thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate that. I appreciate that super chat. So you're filling from the tap, and it says on the instructions, if you have a 300-gallon tank, even though I'm only doing a 20% water change, I have to treat it for 300 gallons. Now, why is that? Now, I haven't ever really understood why that is. Maybe because they just need it to be more potent because it's coming right from the tap, as opposed to going into a bucket where you condition the water in the bucket, stir it around so it's all nice and conditioned before it goes in. Maybe they just need it to be stronger. I don't know. But I follow the instructions. I figure the chemists at CChem and at Fritz, I figure they know what they're talking about. I do suggest, however, if you do have large tanks, anything over over 75 gallons, consider Chem Safe. Chem Safe, a quarter teaspoon will condition 300 gallons. So I'll buy a small container of Safe and it'll last me 2 years. 2 years. So consider using Safe, especially if you're going from the tap and are conditioning for the entire volume of the tank. Point number 3 is a point that some of you are aware of, but some of you are not. If you're filling up the tank and you've temperature matched, and somebody in the house starts the washer, or starts the dishwasher, or jumps into the shower, depending on the kind of plumbing that you have, your tank filling temperature is going to fluctuate wildly. And all of a sudden, you're putting nearly boiling water into your tank and you didn't know it, or you're putting ice cold water into the tank and the person taking the shower is screaming because they can't get the temperature right. So really watch for that kind of thing. If you have the kind of house with older plumbing where those kind of fluctuations occur, like you're in the shower and somebody flushes and you burn, be sure to let everybody know, look, for the next half hour, 45 minutes, please don't use any, yeah, it's okay to wash your hands, but please don't start the dishwasher or the shower or anything, because it'll create a fluctuation. Now, with big tanks, you do a 30% water change on a 300 gallon. That's 100 gallons of water. So what I do on that kind of an increase or that kind of a fill up is I will check the temperature midway through the water change. So midway through the water change, I'll go ahead and let the turn the python so I get faucet water, and pull the hose slightly out of the tank so I don't get a back siphon, and check the temp just to make sure that I'm still on. And it's not uncommon to see a fluctuation of as much as 3 to 4 degrees because the hot water tank was warming up or someone turned something off in the house. So on a big water change, I'll check temp midway through the water change. So temperature fluctuations can be a problem. Now, another issue that can occur, and by the way, if I'm going through this and you have any questions, definitely ask them in the chat, because I will review the questions after I'm done with this list. And for those of you who came in late, we are doing a giveaway. $10 or greater, you get some Sarah food. Be sure to send me an email to ben.o.cichlid @gmail.com. If you do an over $25, I will send you a co-op tea. Now, one of those teas is already accounted for. So there's one tea left, and I have a medium and a large. So just so you know, we are giving away something on today's Super Chat. So point number 4, and this gets into something that all of you are aware of, and that is you did too much at one time. And what happened is you ended up with a bacterial die-off. You vacuumed, you cleaned the filters, and you did an 80% water change all at once. And what that did is you killed off the bacteria, you rinsed the filters, the filter media in tap water, and now the fish are releasing the same amount of ammonia that they're always releasing, but there isn't enough bacteria. The bacteria has to catch up. So you have a what I call a mini cycle. The tank has to catch up with the bacterial die-off, and you get an ammonia nitrite spike that disappears in about 24 to 48 hours. But in that time period, it actually, unless you have a super heavily planted tank and a pretty good deep substrate, you're going to have a die-off. You're going to have some fish die off. And this happened to me. It happened to me with the 90-gallon. Again, the tank wasn't as established. I could get away with that today. I think I could get away with it. I have so much beneficial bacteria in the substrate, in the deep substrate, that I probably could rinse the media in both hang-on back filters, do a very light vacuuming, which I never do in that tank, by the way, and do a water change, a 60% water change, which again, I never do in that tank. I do 20 to 30% water changes, if that. And I could probably get away with it. But I think it was between 3 and 6 months into it, I did that and I had a die-off. So really space out your maintenance and use tank water to rinse your media for the first 3 months to 6 months. After that time period, you're going to have an established, what I call more of a bulletproof, more of a solid tank that can bounce back very quickly and have enough established bacteria so you can actually do that kind of thing. Now, we have the Robert, you're okay. I'll put a penny in the till for you if you want some Sarah. Just, again, like always, send me an email with your full address, and I'll get some to you, buddy. I have a penny jar. I'll put a penny in for you. So there is a debate on washing, cleaning the media with tap water versus aquarium water. Now, some of you are familiar with and watch Jason and Joanna over at Primetime Aquatics. Great channel, Primetime Aquatics. I believe he isn't he a marine biologist? I think he has a degree in biology. He has a lot of tanks, and he rinses all his media in tap water. Sponges for sure. I know he does sponges for sure in tap water. Never had a problem. Has never had an adverse reaction from it. So I do use tap water. So do you use tap water to rinse your media? Or do you get a bucket and fill it with tank water and rinse in that? Let me know. Let me know in the comments below or in the chat. And then let me know how long your tank has been running, and is it planted? Does it have plants or not? Because those are all factors, right? There's a lot of moving parts. It's a fluid situation. So just keep that in mind. And you definitely get a little more wiggle room after you've been running it for about 6 months or so. Fish Ranch. I rinse in tap water. Never had a problem. Now, that could also have something to do with the quality of your tap water. Like I said, my tap water is extremely good, much better than it was in Southern California. Even though in Southern California, I did have better African cichlid water. I was getting liquid rock out of my tap, like they get in places like Texas. Here, I get a softer, lower pH water, but fish adapt. I've got a lot of aragonite, a lot of crushed coral in this in this tank, and it helps. And the other tanks are more just your basic neutral substrate. But anyway, the fish adapt. It looks like a lot of you are using tap. Yeah, I think that's become more and more common, especially with the more established tanks. So let's do point number 5. We're halfway through the list here. And for those of you tuned in late, I am going to be feeding the big boys. I'm going to be giving the South and Central Americans bloodworms, and the African cichlids behind me are going to be getting some krill. So stay tuned for that. So point number 5 is kind of an interesting point and unique to African. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it occurs with South and Central. But if you do a large water change, and I do 30%, unless I had a little bit of a nitrate creep, if it gets like over 80 parts per million, I might do a 60%. But usually I'm around 30% water changes. But your water change can actually trigger a territorial or a breeding behavior, certainly in African cichlids. I've seen it in African cichlids. And you finish the water change, everybody looks good. You go away, you come back a few hours later, and 1 or 2 fish are shredded because one fish started protecting a part of the tank and just lost his mind. And you can see it because they're in full breeding dress. Like the trout in the tank behind me will get black on the anal fin, dark blue and purple in the body. And I know there's trouble brewing. The living stone eye will go all a deep blue, the entire body, no pattern, just all deep blue, as opposed to the blotches. And I know that there's a problem. There's been a problem. There's going to be a problem because they just kind of go crazy. They start digging a pit and chasing and hitting anyone that comes near them. And so that is a problem that's going to be unique, I think, to African cichlid keepers. Probably not going to be an issue with your community tanks, right? Not going to be an issue there. Point number 6, and this is one that is probably seldom considered, but does happen. And once again, full disclosure, it happened to me. And you hate to admit it, but it's the truth. When you fill up the tank and you kind of clean and do things, you end up repositioning like an output, and the output is no longer breaking up the surface. And you finish and you leave and you come back and a few of your fish are dead. And what happened is you oxygen starved them. Now, interestingly enough, that can also be a problem if your water gets real hot during the water chain, during the filling of the tank, because at a much higher temperature, you're not going to get dissolved oxygen into the water like you would at lower temperatures. So you can end up with gasping fish, gasping at the surface, right? And by the time you notice it, very often the fish that your larger fish have died off. The smaller fish are okay with the amount of oxygen available. The bigger fish have died off, and and then you realize, oh heck, I repositioned an output, and now I have no surface breakup, and so the bad gas was not escaping. Oxygen was not swapping out, and that can be a real problem. So watch for equipment repositioning, and that can create an oxygen issue. And that ties into point number 7, which is forgetting to plug in equipment. Very often, like I unplug heaters that are in the sumps, and I unplug the heaters that are in the tanks, in the bigger tanks, because they have heaters on the back wall. Whereas the smaller tanks have heaters that are lower than the level of water change. So I just leave those heaters on. But in the bigger tanks, the heaters are larger and they're higher up. And so I unplug them during a water change. Well, if it was very cold weather here and I didn't plug them in, I could have a problem. Even more seriously, if I unplug filters. And I always unplug the sumps. You have to unplug the sumps because the pumps will just start, they're just pumping air and they're not getting cooled by the water circulating through them. And so your pumps burn out. You have to unplug your sump pumps, and you get distracted. You know, your wife reminds you that you have to be in the car in 5 minutes to go to the dinner that you have that night, and you forget to plug things in. That night, you don't go down to the fish room, you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, fish are under a lot of stress or they're dead. There's a problem, right? Low oxygen is usually the thing that kills them because you didn't have the circulation, or a huge shift in temperature, especially during the winter months here in Tennessee, where my garage just doesn't stay really that warm. It stays warm, but not that warm. I do need the help of the heaters. Did I miss a super chat? Let me see here. Robert, I got your super chat. And Whip, I got your super chat. Warren, yes. And Lady Diane. Okay, good. All right, I'm caught up on super chats. Thank you. So, forgetting to put plug equipment back in. So in the future, when anyone anyone contacts me about issues after a water change, I'm just going to say, can you please watch the live stream of July 1st, 2023? Because everything I can tell you is going to be in that live stream. So number 8, which I've kind of alluded to already, point number 8 is that and there's a channel, I think it's called The Secret Living in Your Aquarium, The Secret Life Living in Your Aquarium, Secret World, Secret Life Living in Your Aquarium. It's a planted tank channel. A real nice guy, has a lot of planted tanks, and recently there was a water change, or there was a water treatment plant issue, and he ran water into his tanks and ended up destroying a whole bunch of tanks. And it was because the local plant had done something. Now, because his tanks are super planted, maybe he doesn't treat. I don't know. Because the plants love the ammonia. They love the nitrates, right? So maybe he doesn't treat. I'm not sure. But all I know is that he ended up with a real serious issue. And I believe it was due to a very strong chlorination, like a super chlorinating of the tanks, of the water treatment plant. And boss says, I know him, mainly a shrimp guy. Yeah, shrimp and planted tanks. And that ended up a big problem. So the only safeguard you have against that is, if you want to be real sure, test your tap. Run some tap water into a cup. Now, be sure you test it at the temperature that you're going to fill the tanks. Don't just test the cold, test the hot, because who knows? You might have something going on in your heater. I don't know. So take the water to the temperature you're going to be filling the tanks at, fill up a cup, and then go ahead and do your strips, or however you want to test it. And be sure the cup is nice and clean. Cichlid Kings almost smoked an aquarium. Yeah. People forget to unplug those heaters. You should unplug them and then wait 15 minutes so that they kind of they kind of cool down, and then go ahead and do your water changes or your sump, right? Reduce the level in your sump, that kind of thing. So, number 9. Number 9 is a very elusive one, and if it created a problem, you would never know it. You'd have dying fish, gasping fish, but you'd never know it. It would be really, really hard to figure out. And that has to do with having something on your hands that you didn't wash off, and then you contaminated your tank. You're outside doing some yard work, and you handled some things that maybe had some Roundup or some deadly chemical like Roundup, which I don't allow anywhere near my house, by the way. But you had Roundup or something, and some of it got on you, and you came in and reached in to mess with some decor, and you contaminated your tank. Your fish start dying off. You don't know why. And, without sending a vial of your water to a lab, how are you going to find out that you got Roundup in there? So really wash the heck out of your hands up to your elbow, like you're going into surgery, and then rinse the heck out of it with running water. There's no residual soap on there either. And there are some people who have gloves, who wear gloves. I don't go that far. I've never worn gloves. Certainly, as some of these fish get bigger, I might need gloves just for safety purposes because, they can break the skin with their teeth, some of these fish, right? So my last point number 10. And this one is one that, again, some of you think of, some of you don't, but for whatever reason, there's a large pH difference between your tap and your aquarium. And you do an 80%, like a caveman aquatics, 80-90% water change. And you end up doing a large pH shift, which is very, very hard on your fish. They start to shimmy. They start to scrape against things. They start to bang into rocks. They go crazy, and you lose some fish. This is why if you have a situation like that, where you think that could happen, got a fly in here, where you think that could happen, you might want to fill your tanks very slowly, or do a couple smaller water changes during the week instead of one big, massive water change. So just something to be aware of. And maybe test the pH of your tank, test the pH of your tap. If you notice a gap, it doesn't have to be a big gap, because from 7.5 to 8 is a very large pH shift. So, and then if you do have that kind of a difference, just fill the tank up very, slowly. Just fill it up very, very slowly. So those are the 10 tips for issues of water changes, issues after a water change, fish dying off or demonstrating a horrible situation. Now, what do you have some you want to add to the list? Go ahead and add them to the chat. And we all learn from each other around here, right? And I'm going to cruise this, I'm going to cruise the chat and take a look at what you got going on here. Let's cruise the chat, and I'll show you the chat on the screen. There you go. Your name will forever be on YouTube. Let's take a look here. Crystal C. She uses gloves that go up to the armpit. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt. It's one of those things where It's not a problem until it's a problem. And then when it's a problem, it's too late. So one of those ounce of precaution, right? Ounce of precaution situations. So Crystal's using gloves. Okay, I get it. That's good. Rocky and Miles. Now, see, Rocky and Miles, I've gone that way myself. Do more frequent, smaller water changes to help avoid these issues. I do smaller water changes, and I also do the minimum water changes. I don't compulsively do water changes all the time because there's always a risk. And as good as the fish look after the water change itself, messing with the tank, vacuuming, moving stuff around, it's stressful to the fish. And stress can precipitate illness. So again, we're back to that new t-shirt that I'm offering at the Teespring store. I have a Teespring store. Check it out. You can get tees, tank tops, hoodies, coffee mugs. And one of the t-shirts is for success, mess less, because that does happen. The less you mess, the better. Cat Sailor, don't forget to turn off heaters. Yep. A heater breaking inside your aquarium is a disaster. Not just from the glass, but from possible mercury leakage. I mean, it's just a disaster. Don't even risk it. And for years, I've run my heaters very low in the aquarium and on their sides. And the other solution is just not to do such large water changes that you end up going below the level of the heater. Shamu Aquariums, I got an idiot roseline shark that wandered to the part of the tank where I'm working, get cornered by the siphon, and launch themselves out of the tank. So I make sure everyone is on the other side. One of my, I'm laughing because one of my geos did that. He headed for the corner and then, of course, got launched into the air. And it's amazing how high they can actually fly up in the air. But yeah, it's funny how they do that. You know, the worst ones are fry. If you're vacuuming with just a hose or with an actual tube, the fry, they're curious, I guess. They go right into it. And plecos do the same thing. They go, oh, look at that stuff going up the tube. Oh, that looks tasty. And they go right up. And it's been on several occasions. In my little pleco tank, I use a white bucket when I siphon, because on several occasions I've had to fish a pleco out of there and put them back in the tank because they'll just go right up the tube, and so yeah, not too smart. R. Baglio has experienced the full tank die-off after the city did a major job. I wish they would do something like send you an alert email. I mean, most of these water treatment plants have your email on file. Maybe do one of those mass voicemail messaging systems where they call you and go, on this date, there's going to be a large flush. Because, I mean, there are a lot of folks out there that are using water for pets. And even though a human, which probably shouldn't be consuming it either, but because of the larger body mass can tolerate it, small pets are not going to be able to. All of a sudden your little parakeet dies, or your little bearded dragon dies, and you don't know why. You don't know why that. Boss, I've never seen my clown pleco. I've got 3 coolie loaches, and with the betta, I see them only if it's dark in here, and I sneak down and sneak up on them. Otherwise, yeah, they're hidden. Lady Diane agrees. Baby plecos are the worst for jumping in a siphon. Yep, I agree. See, very smart. Crystal C. I have netting covering my hose. My Corys and autos kept getting too close. Yeah, they get curious. It's so funny. And the other side of it is then when you're filling the tank and you have that bubbling water flow going into the tank, they'll go and swim in the bubbles. And, that's kind of cute, right? I used to have some clown loaches, and they loved sticking their noses right into the hose, right, when it was blowing out the water. And anyway, I always wondered if I was treating the whole tank coming from the tap, but you wonder if I don't know, is that going to harm them because they're right into the raw water, right? So anyway, never had a problem. Jeremy, I do not recommend using distilled water only because you're going to have to recreate the mineral content. And unless you're really good with that kind of stuff, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. What fish species name would best describe for the fourth? Well, a flagfish. A flagfish, which, by the way, are really good with black algae. I almost bought one. They have one at the store right next to me, a real nice flagfish. But I heard they can be a little aggressive. If you've had experience with a flagfish, let me know in the chat, because there's a real pretty one available next door. This shop is about half a mile from me, and they've got a flagfish. Real nice, hardy one. You can get some red, white, and blue. I've seen beautiful red, white, and blue betta fish. Real nice 4th of July fish. Jet Set Mama. Hey, Jet Set Mama, have I seen you before? What a great name. I buy spring water for 220 gallons, 6.5 betta tank, and myself, and my precious waggy tail. Is that, so that spring water, it has minerals. It's not distilled. So it has your calcium, your magnesium, and other trace minerals. I'm assuming, right? Now, can you imagine if I did a 200-gallon water change, which I don't think I've ever done, on the tank behind me? How much spring water would I have to buy and carry? And, that would be quite a task. Quite a task. Rocky and Miles, I have a red, white, and blue female betta named Betsy, like Betsy Ross. I salute your betta, sir. Oh, boy. Hey, love my wet pets in the house. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad that you're here. Have a small school of flagfish with my Tetra 125-gallon community tank. They don't bother any other fish at all. Well, that's good to know. I might go over there and pick that flagfish up. He's really, really cute, really hardy. And I've heard that they're really good with black algae. They love black algae. So I might be making a trip to the fish store. Thank you for that. Love my wet pets. Love my wet pets. I've talked about you before because you're one of the folks that left African cichlids because you got sick and tired of the aggression and went into community tanks. And now you're loving your aquarium again. And I'm very happy for you. I'm glad that you didn't just leave the hobby. Finn Golfin, Finn Olfin. Terrible. He puts a sponge to make sure he doesn't suck up any. Now I would just wonder if that would slow down the ability of the siphon to pull up the bigger detritus. Now, keep in mind, I'm siphoning tanks that have fish that, they lay some pretty significant lumber. So, but certainly with a smaller tank, like my planted community, I could probably do that. But, these bigger cichlid tanks, I mean, it's amazing some of those pieces can go up at all. Fishy view cam. When I'm away for travel, I love watching my new little Mabunas, always streaming live on Twitch and YouTube. Search for my screen name. Very cool. Very cool. Keep an eye on that tank. Gia Aquatics in the house. I cleaned my filters yesterday with tap water, but my tank has deep substrate, but no plants. Not an issue. But I consider tank water to be on the safe side. Yeah, now again, I would suggest that work with an established tank with the tap water idea. I mean, early on, the first 3 to 6 months, I would rinse with tank water. But certainly after that, you've got a real established, bulletproof tank. You could probably switch over to tap. You're not going to have a problem. You're not going to have an issue. My opinion. Keep everything you hear on YouTube. Take it with a big grain of salt, and always recognize that your circumstances are going to be different from everybody else. So don't just take everything at face value. Well, Dennis, if Edith wants to get another tank, you should get her another tank. You know what I always say? Happy wife, happy life. Oh, let's see here. I'm cruising the chat. Cruising that chat. For those of you who arrived late, we are doing some giveaways today. And for those of you who want the Teespring, there's the Teespring address. And we do have new t-shirts at Teespring. And I'm going to come up with some new designs at some point, but it's a fluid situation. And we also have a for success, mess less. But there's that big old trout. But yeah, visit the Teespring store. That supports the channel. Also, if you shop on Amazon, use amazon.com/shop/ben.o.cichlid, and you'll go to my Amazon store. You don't even have to get anything from the store. You can go ahead and bounce out and shop at Amazon, and my channel will get credit. So it's a great way to support the channel. All right, let's see here. I was going to show you the giveaway banner for those of you who came in late. And one of the t-shirts is already accounted for. I think first pick goes to Lady Diane. But there is another t-shirt available. But anything over $10, you get a little bit of Sarah food. Just be sure to send me your full mailing address to ben.o.cichlid and remind me of the amount of your super chat, and I will hook you up. And a big shout out to my friends at Sarah. For 50 years, they've been making quality fish products. So let's go ahead and feed some fish. What do you think? Let's feed let's give the fish some food that's been sitting in a cup for a while. So it's frozen, but it's not going to be frozen. It's going to be running all over the place, which is good because it's going to give every fish a shot at it. Let's go ahead and feed some fish. Hold on. So I'm going to toss a little frozen krill, which has thawed out, and it's been soaking in tank water. Almost all gone. What was that, 15 seconds? People tell me, well, I feed my fish what they eat in a minute. Are you kidding me? In my tank, it's 15 seconds. Let's turn the camera and look at the 210. I've had to start feeding them more things like bloodworms because the uh, the green tear, for some reason, just spits out the dry food. Doesn't matter what I feed. He's a real picky eater, but he can't resist bloodworms. Let me dump these in here. You'll see what I mean. It might seem like a lot, but it disappears in just seconds. And when you look at the size of these fish, the amount of body mass that these fish have, they really need a hearty feeding. Now, on days when I feed a food like this, that's their feeding for the whole day. They don't get a second feeding. But most days I'll feed them twice. Sometimes I'll take a day off just to let them flush out. The smaller fish, I don't skip feedings. They usually get a regular feeding. And certainly, small, like your fry or smaller fish, with that super high metabolism, they really can't go long without food. But these bigger fish, they carry more fat in their bodies. They can go a bit longer without food. So that'll be their one feeding for today. So there you go. A live feeding as promised. And if you have any other questions for me, go ahead and ask them now, because we are running over the hour and I don't want to take up your entire holiday weekend. I do appreciate you folks showing up on the 4th of July weekend. It is a special weekend for me because of my wedding 38th wedding anniversary. And of course, I do take the 4th of July as a serious holiday because I'm a patriotic American. So we'll be having a barbecue and all that good stuff, and at the same time appreciating how lucky we are to be here. So, with that being said, thank you everybody for turning up today. You are greatly appreciated. Thank you to my wonderful moderators for keeping things moving, and thank you to my super chatters and to all of you who showed up and gave the video a thumbs up, who subscribed, who hit that notification bell. You're all very, very appreciated, and the channel keeps growing because of you and your support. And I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing next for my next few videos. I'll come up with something. Usually it's inspired by your comments. I go and read comments and I go, oh, that's a good topic. I think I'll answer that person's question in the form of a video. So for those of you who did do a super chat of $10 or more, certainly please contact me at ben.o.cichlid. And even though you may have done it before, do it again. Send me your full name and mailing address, and I will get these things out to you. And for those of you who are over the 20, like Lady Diane, I will be shipping out to you in this special limited edition shipping bag, limited until I reorder. And I will be sending you some Sarah food. And Lady Diane, you're getting a t-shirt. And I think that's it. You folks are the best. You rock. And I will see you next week. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And if you're outside of the United States, enjoy your weekend and be safe and stay warm or cool, depending where you are in the world. Goodbye, my friends.